Danny, what's up, man?
What's up, Julian? I'm so glad
Thanks.
to see you, bro.
Yeah, man, you too. Thanks for joining the podcast, man. This is
Absolutely.
probably one of the ones that I'm most excited for. I feel like you have a very infectious personality. So
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. I'm so nervous. I don't do this often, and like I feel like who wants to listen to me or whatever. But also, I just don't want to talk too much. Like I just want to take it easy and make sure that I don't do anything to embarrass myself because I know you're just oh so elegant and eloquent, and like I hope I can keep up with you, bro.
dude, you're gonna be great.
Thank you, man. Just
But
lead the way.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, we're gonna talk about food, industry, spirituality, and how it kind of ties into those things.
Yeah,
Before
man.
we dive into that, I figure you want to kind of introduce yourself. We could maybe talk about how
Yeah.
we met.
Yeah. So my name is Danny Ippolito. I'm a restaurant owner in Staten Island. I own Bin Five over there, and I've been there for 6 years. But I worked there for 4 years before that. I actually left that place to go work in the city one day because I just I thought that I was like the greatest thing, and I had like this huge ego. And I was in Staten Island, and Staten Island is a strange place, and it has a lot of just a lot of diversity, but like it's a lot of propaganda there. So it's like, you know, it's very hard to be discerning where we are. And when I was into like when I started to like get into food a little bit and everything, and I started to bartend and everything, I said to myself, like, I want to go work in like I want to go work in Manhattan. I want to go and try and like do something really cool because like everything I've ever done in my life, I've always wanted to do it to like that extreme level, that level where it could be the best that it could be. So I was a musician first, and I became a jazz musician because it was the hardest music to play. Like that's just what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to be involved in something that was like difficult and profound and beautiful and like. And then when after I worked at Bin Five for a little while, I went to work at a place. First, I actually wanted to work at Tavern on the Green, believe it or not. Like, and kind of was like a flop at the time that I went there. Like somebody ran that place into the ground, and I was like down and out, and I was like drinking pretty heavy at the time. And I decided like, let me take a walk around and like look for jobs. So where did I end up? Lincoln Center. And I think I walked into like probably the most impressive thing I've ever seen in terms of like dining and food and wine and then that's where we met. Like me and you were like coming up in the trenches in that place, and like it was like another world. Like it was like a really sort of, I mean, like there were good parts, bad parts, but it was special. It was definitely special. And I learned a lot. Like I was there for 6 months, something like that. And it just was hard because my mom got sick and I had things to do at home, and and the commute was crazy. Like I was traveling like 4 hours a day to work there, and like it was just a lot. So
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, it was just like I was at the bus at like 2 in the morning all the time. I just couldn't. Money was good, but it was like. So I went back home and I tried to like get some jobs, but then I was like, I was just too hooked on Lincoln. Like I was really hooked. I was hooked on that atmosphere where, I mean, you know what it was like. I mean, it was like an aim at perfection, like an aim at like some kind of divinity. And like being a musician and growing up in Staten Island, I feel like the restaurant industry is like kind of like a safe haven for people that like aren't exactly sure like what's next. But going in the right direction in the restaurant industry can also be like something like inspiring and miraculous. Like I say that because it can actually create like a miracle in some people when you start to see that everything is being put in its right place. um you know it can really give you that focus and that ability. Like you could say I want to do something in a certain way for the rest of my life. Like I want to serve people the correct way for the rest of my life. I want to serve something in the correct way for the rest of my life. And like meeting you was the best because like I was just like so scared, and like nobody felt like real to me there. Like it was hard. Like you know what it was like. It was just everybody was like way up here, like way up here, and rightfully so, I guess. Like some of the people, like I give them a lot of credit. Like I hated them at the time, like a lot of them, but it was so cool because like you were just like, I don't know exactly how we met. Like I don't know if you remember because I don't have a great memory. Like I smoke a lot of weed, like but but I was just like, wow, like I love this guy. Like I love this guy, and like I don't really have like even a lot of friends now because I find that like the old saying like good people are hard to find, and I think that's true because it's not easy to be good, but I knew you were like a great guy like right away, and like we would just have lunch together. We were just like we were on the level, and we knew that like we were both trying to like do something, but we didn't know necessarily how to talk about it, or except with each other. And then like I feel like people started to kind of gravitate toward us like as like a pair of friends. Like we were hanging out with like Francisco at the time, who was like such a chill kid, and
Yeah,
Alba came by and she was really chill.
yeah,
And then like other people noticed that we were like on the real, and like at the same time also, like while we loved our fine dining, like it wasn't going to break us as people. Like we weren't going to like cross over to like being jerks or something like that. Like we were going to stay real, like whatever it had to be. Like nobody was going to put us in a place where it was like we were going to compromise ourselves and our spirituality and our integrity as people. So I knew that. Like I knew like if I was going to like sit and talk to somebody, I was like, I'm not going to talk to somebody that's going to slip away into like some idealistic like crap over like being a real person. Like so but Lincoln was incredible. And then I wanted to I wanted to I wanted to bring that because the bartending was incredible. I'm sorry if you heard that. That was my I put on the do not disturb. Sorry, can you see me? Sorry. Did I
oh
go off
no,
for a second?
yeah, no, you're good,
I
you're good.
I don't know what happened. I put on the do not disturb and I still got a text message. Why would that be? I don't know how to do that. I'm sorry, but hold on one second. I'm gonna put on this do not disturb. They're both on do not disturb. I don't know. Anyway, just deal with me. Like it is what it is. Like I'm sorry because I just not. I mean, I'm like sort of good at technology, but like I don't even talk to people. But like when you were like, let's talk, I was like, yes, let's talk. Like I haven't seen like I mean, when did we work together? That was like 2014, something like that.
uh at least, yeah,
It was something like that, right? And it
yeah.
was crazy. Like, yeah, it was crazy. And like Jonathan Bennett was there and everything. So I was just um I got back to Staten Island. I tried other jobs and I couldn't do it. I was hooked on like doing things the right way. So I bought the place. Like I bought bin 5 that I was working there because it was a small spot. And I figured I would be able to express myself creatively there since my music career, like, I mean, like I was good, but I wasn't that good. So like I was just, I was realistic. Like my parents always brought me up and said, like, have a backup plan. But like I was a jazz trumpet player, like that. So
Yeah.
you know, I loved it, but I also saw that like people much better than me were getting jobs, and like I just didn't want to live the rest of my life like not having any money. Like my parents didn't have any money, and I just like couldn't see it. Like I can't see like having a full experience of this world and being able to if you're just like dead broke, which I was, and still am for that and still am for that matter. Uh, you know, and so we started at Bin 5, and I it's sort of been like my my solo flight crazy mission, like to just do the best that I could there. And it's communicating with like you and people around me that I saw like sort of start to get hip to stuff like that was not necessarily like known to us at the time. And then I took it from there. I wanted to just, I don't know what the drive is, to just try to like be good at something, but like without the ego, like to not like to be good, but like not to be the best, but to do it right. So and that didn't start that way. Like now it's sort of now it's there. But like when I was a young cocky kid, like I was just really drinking hard, and like I didn't know what I was doing. I was down to have no money. I was like very sad to have no money, and I was very sad about like the Staten Island dining scene, the way things were, and all that kind of stuff. So that's how it really started for me. I mean,
Yeah.
how did you feel? How did you feel about Lincoln? Like, what did that feel like for you when you were there?
Oh man. Well, first off, I don't quite remember our first interaction. Like I of course remember like, lunches and like us going to that that place. I forget the
PJ Clark,
yeah, PJ
PJ
Clark's.
Clark,
Yeah, getting a drink
and
or
there was that
whatever.
little Daniel Boulud spot too. Yeah,
Yeah,
getting
yeah,
too many drinks, bro. Getting too
yeah,
many drinks for
yeah.
me. Not you so much. I mean, like I was just bombed out all the time.
Yeah, but you know, but before, transitioning over to the career I have now in advertising, I all I knew was restaurants. Like I had worked in restaurants from like a very young age, but like it was mostly, like a mom and pop shop or like, more casual, like more, fast casual, and like, or like a line
Yeah,
cook. That was the first time where like I was like a server at like a Michelin star restaurant. And I think
yeah, and they
that,
had a star at the time. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, they had to start at the time, and it was intense. I feel like it, at first, because we were the new people, got shat on all the time. There were some people who, they had like a high
cried. I
standard.
mean,
Ver-
cried. I cried in that place. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
like,
sometimes like nightly
yeah, like it was
tears.
intense. Yeah.
Yeah,
And like, when like, before like we would start the shift where they would line people up and like ask questions, and it was just like a very, very intense environment. And I feel like, at first it was something that was, just anxiety inducing and you're just like, oh my God. But then, because like I stayed there for about like 2 years, and I
yeah, you
think
were there
that,
longer than me.
yeah, and I think that, as someone who didn't really have much exposure to like, fine dining prior to that, it really just like first and foremost like gave me a much greater appreciation for food, for, like for chefs,
You had been
for,
on the line too, like you had cooked.
yeah, yeah, I had been a
Oh
line
yeah,
cook before
because
that.
I can't cook anything. Like that was the biggest mistake that I made, like not learning to cook. So like, I mean, I still to this day, like, I mean, like maybe eggs, but
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. No, yeah, I can cook. Like I'm not the best, but I can cook. But like,
yeah,
yeah, it definitely just like instilled this high level of discipline. I think it also really just also made you appreciate, at least myself, it made me appreciate food so much more. Like I feel like, for the most part, as human beings, you just stuff your fucking mouth with food. You don't
yeah,
think about the flavors and the
right.
combos, or even just the experience of dining out. Like it's an art, and I think that, being there definitely gave me that appreciation. And honestly, I feel like it set me up for success for my future endeavors, because it just really instilled this level of, hard work and understanding of what it takes to like do something truly well. Because like you were saying before, we would have shifts where, you know if you did like a double, you're working like 12 hours, 10, 12 hours in this one place, not even
Yeah,
counting, going back and forth. And then it's like, if like you're doing back to back to back doubles, it's like when like you hardly sleep. And it's like you're saying before, you were in Staten Island. So it's like you're
yeah,
traveling
yeah.
4 hours
Doing
working.
brunch and everything, like brunch was hard, man.
It's
Yeah.
insane.
But also and the demand of the excellence at the same time, like, like you weren't allowed to make a mistake there. Like, people were
Right.
spending too much money. So it was like, it
Yeah.
was it was it was intense. And I was like, I was I was tired, man. And that was hard. And the one of the things about Lincoln is like I thought to myself even at the time, like, can this be done without being so brutal? And sometimes I'm like, still no, like no. It like no, like you're not gonna get that, you're not gonna get that good if you're not brutal. Like people that are just like I saw this stupid movie like Whiplash recently. Have you seen that yet? It's
No.
about like this. I forget the guy's name. He's like an amazing actor. He's the one in like Oz with like that crazy face, and like he was the dad in Juno and everything. Like I forget what his name is. He's the bald guy. Anyway, he was like this really hard. He was like this hardcore like jazz band director, and he just like I've never seen. I mean, like when I played jazz, like everybody was chill. Like nobody was like screaming like a military band or anything like that. But this guy was like coming down on this kid, coming down on this kid, coming down. And in the end, the kid's the best. And it's like, what does it teach you? Like nothing, because like the whole thing is like, like you're not supposed to be hard on people. And it was like this guy was hard until the end, and the kid became better. And then like it cut to the credits, and it was just like it was brutal. But the kid became transcendent because of it. Like he talks about how like when Charlie Parker, the great alto saxophone player, wanted to like first came into a scene, like he got a cymbal thrown in his head, and the thing that turned him into Charlie Parker was like just getting his ass kicked, like getting abused, getting like ripped to shreds, you know. And then the kid says to the guy, he was like, "Oh well, what if you're so mean that Charlie Parker like never, gave up and like you just couldn't take it anymore?" And the guy said, "No, man, because the real Charlie Parker would never get frustrated like that. He would just keep going." So
Yeah.
I think about it all the time. Like, I think about all my ass kickings and everything like that. And I'm grateful for them. I mean, I'm grateful. Like, I don't know if I'm grateful to the people necessarily, because like if that's how they need to do it with like negative energy and things like that, like that's unfortunate. I think. I think. And I'm still grappling with this because like I'll lose my mind at my restaurant all the time and I'll just be like, what the F is wrong with everybody? Like, you guys suck, like horrible things. And like, thank God I'm not drinking anymore because it was much more horrible. And truly like I would just I would explode because I couldn't understand how people did not want to attain this level. And that's not the way for me, maybe necessarily, like more of like, like how do you inspire people that way? But Lincoln was inspiring, like nonetheless. It was inspiring. And it was just it was a really special experience. Um and then when Bin 5 opened, I also became a sommelier. I really got into, well, first I got into the cocktails because we had just the most incredible bartenders and I didn't really have access to the sommelier, who was Aaron Von Rock, and he was just like the most badass dude on the planet at the time. Like you couldn't even get near him, without like him like glowing around you. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Like the guy was just like, he was just a character, man. And
Rock
he
star.
wouldn't talk to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they call him, rock star. He ran the for the whole group. I mean, the whole restaurant group. He ran the wine program, and this guy was just like all over the place: Bordeaux, Burgundy, like the great parts of Italy, Piedmont, Venice. Like you just go, and like the list was all Italian, but it didn't matter because there was there were so many restaurants under that patina group that they, he picked wine for the whole thing. And so I would naturally I applied as a bartender, and they were like, you don't know shit. They were like, you can't bartend here. And like, they were like, I had dining experience. I was on the floor and I had like a good personality, I guess, or whatever. And like I wanted it, but I didn't know how to make drinks like the real way, like in Staten Island, it was just like, oh, like you want a vodka cran, you want like a Tito's and Club, or like, you want a Cosmo maybe with like Rose's lime juice, which is like really a horrible product. And I guess we'll get into like you were talking about, like how much you appreciate food and the philosophy of it and everything. And I almost would guess that for everybody, it leads toward just the source and like the like, I'm a purist now. Like I'm just like the more pure that things can be, the better they are, the more interesting they are to me at the very least. Like, the more that we manipulate things, I always tell people in terms of wine, like, cause I'm just like this big natural wine freak. Like, it's like when you get the best apple in the world, nothing is done to it. Like, like you can definitely like know, as somebody was like, this is the greatest apple that was grown in the world. Like it's going to be just picked off the tree. Like it's not going to be, and it's going to be picked off a tree that was taken care of, this, that, and the other thing. Like it just all goes to the roots. And that is like really the source of food and wine, and like doing that in a really like beautiful way, and Lincoln, of course, like they do that. I mean, people have known that since like Alice Waters wrote The Art of Simple Food back in like, I think it was like the '70s. I didn't, I mean, like I skimmed it, but I just, but man, there's so many things to talk about. Like I just got a million thoughts running through my head. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And
so
I think that so like
do you mind if I smoke a little bit? Do you mind if I
absolutely.
smoke? I just like they
I'd be
legalized like
offended.
weed on
I'd
the
be
street.
offended if
So
you didn't. If you didn't, I'd be
thank you,
offended.
bro.
So
Thank you so
please.
much. I actually have this nifty pocket. So go ahead. You could keep talking to me while I find it.
But yeah, I think that, to your point earlier in regards to whether or not you have to be hard on a person in order to instill greatness, I think to an extent you do, but I don't know if you have to necessarily be so harsh while doing it. But I do think that there is that need for repetition. There is that need to kind of destroy that individual's ego to an extent, to the point
Yeah.
where they recognize that they're not hot shit, and like that, you know, and it may also go back to like, culture and like how we are today, where, the generations uh after us have been to an extent coddled, to the point where, they have been in this safe environment within their household where they were told that, you're the greatest thing since fucking vanilla pudding. And then it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
go
Yeah.
into the real world and you're not prepared, and the real world's like you ain't shit. And like
Yeah.
I think of, like you were saying before, I think of people who have been the best at their craft. Like I think the person, that everyone probably thinks of is like Michael Jordan. And like the thing about Michael Jordan that I think sticks out to me, especially after
Truly
watching,
incredible.
well, yeah, like the thing is, like when you look at him from a physical standpoint, there's nothing impressive about him. Average height for an NBA player, actually probably even below average height. Physically, not too, impressive. But the thing that separates him from anyone else is the level of determination that he had, the level of
Yeah.
time and dedication that he put towards his craft and the actual desire to be the best. And that's something that's hard because you can't teach someone, you can't push like you can all you can do is push someone to be their best, but they have to find that from within.
I agree with you. I think about like a lot of the jazz musicians that I've seen because I went to college for jazz, and like all the cats, we used to call them the cats, all the cats that succeeded weren't the best. Like they weren't the ones that were like blazing when I was like, like on like just ripping solos and stuff like that. They were all the ones that were like sort of understated but were really into it. And then they
Yeah.
just kept going and they kept going and they kept going. And then there's that book by that dude like Daniel something or other, about like how 10,000 hours of, have you read that thing, or like 10,000 hours of practice?
Well, I haven't read that, but I've read Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, and he talks about that. He's like that basically, yeah, like you have to like do something for up to 10,000 hours to like become an expert at it, and like he
Right.
highlighted like the Beatles and everything.
And I think that really what you become an expert is at is yourself. Like you learn, like you mean even like Bruce Lee and stuff like that, to reference just a million people in a row. Like, you can show off all that you want, but like to truly express yourself, like that's what you're really practicing. Like that's what you're really going for. And I don't know if like, like that those kinds of influences is it, hopefully they'll, like, even bad, good, whatever they are, hopefully they'll like hone in on what you really are and what you're really trying to express. And that's all over the food world. I mean, that's all over the food world. There is no best chef in the world. There's just chefs most true to themselves, I guess, is really what it comes down to, and most true to God, in the sense of like whatever God you want to think, like, no, I have no particular religion. I just, very spiritual person, but being in line with that and being in line with who you are, you know, that's um that's a tough one. It's really crazy. And I don't like to let up on people, but I also like to let up on people in the sense like they have to find themselves too. Like, I don't know, I mean,
No,
for me, I mean, Lincoln turned me into me. I mean, Lincoln was the symbol thrown at my head that made me go and like purchase this restaurant and like become a sommelier and like create a craft cocktail program. And like, the thing about food is, like you were talking about before, it's that we all eat, and there's differences in the things that we eat. Like not everybody like listens to music hardcore, not everybody listens to like, but everybody eats. And the thing about food is that the differences in like what we eat, like this piece of chicken or that piece of chicken, like you got a Wendy's chicken sandwich and then you got like chicken, like half roast chicken cooked by like John George or something like that, right? And like the differences are not really all that much, but they are, like, and that's the thing. And like when I got to Staten Island, it was sort of like, okay, I really want to try to kind of, I want to kind of show people the difference between the Beatles and NSYNC, right? Like it's a group of guys. It's a group of guys, right? You know what I mean? Like they're both a
yeah,
group of
yeah,
guys, and they're both harmonizing, and they both have sort of like a catchy tune, but one of them is like divine, if you will, and the other is bullshit. And okay, like some of the guys in NSYNC could sing. I mean, like you can't deconstruct everything so that it's just bad, because I mean they
yeah.
made money for
Well,
a reason. I
yeah,
mean they
yeah.
sound good, but if you don't, it's hard to be, and who has the right to instruct someone on what to appreciate and how to appreciate. But clearly, I think if you set those two examples in front of any American, they would be like, yeah, like the Beatles are the Beatles, they're the greatest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So do you know how to turn off messages on a phone? Do you know how I mean, like, what am I doing wrong here? Like, do you hear that?
I
It's
don't hear
driving me
it. I don't
crazy,
hear
dude.
it, so it's fine.
You don't?
I
Oh,
don't.
good. I'm glad,
Yeah,
man, because I
yeah.
really, really turned everything off, and like I'm just getting all these dings that are driving me crazy. As long as it's not driving you crazy, I just get,
It's not. It's not. I'm totally
yeah.
leaving this in, by the way, because it's hilarious.
Oh, no, do it, leave it in. I'm all good. I'm about real, man, and I know you are too. So yeah, and that was it for me. I was just sort of like, okay, like I know that you could get drunk on anything, and like, and honestly, like the point of alcohol should never really even be to get drunk. Like it like drugs are drugs and everything like that. But like wine, for example, is for me like really not about getting drunk anymore. It's really about an expression of agriculture that, as a byproduct, happens to have some alcohol in it that should be monitored, just like this. Everything should be monitored. I don't think that everything is just like free game. I'm not going to go drive my car after doing this, So I knew that like they both produce the same effect. When you eat, you're full, like whatever it is, whether it's the worst burger in the whole world or whether it's like, filet mignon from JB or something like that. Like, Jonathan Beno, great chef. I guess I should tell people what things are, like, you know what I mean? Because like I know
Right.
But coming up with those differences and being able to describe those differences, I think, is so much a part of that. It's not really like it's interesting, but I think it's also partially our responsibility as people to be able to talk about like why things matter, to create a full life. And that's cool. Like, you could sort of like get rid of that notion and be like, yeah, man, like it is what it is. I'm good with whatever. And that's cool too. But being discerning, caring about what human beings do different from other human beings it was really the basis of that's what Lincoln taught me. That's what music taught me first. And then I think Lincoln was more harsh about it because maybe the jazz instructors that I had were like a little bit too chill, maybe,
Right.
and it didn't shove it down my throat the way that Lincoln did. And it was like, well, like, I want to do this. Like, I want to do this. I want to be interested in my problems, not frustrated by my problems. I want to get like deep, deep, deep into this, like the way that these people do. And that's what it is about food for me. Like, like we can all do better, but we have to have reasons why. We have to, and that's where, of course, pricing comes in and things like that. What's worth this, what value of things and all that. But we do have to have a value system, because then what are we? Like, what are we doing here as human beings? We have to figure out, it's rewarding to figure out what is exceptional and
Yeah.
why,
No, yeah,
you
I
know?
agree. I agree. And I think that to an extent, you know, maybe it's, this is just my hypothesis, but I think that with all the distractions that we have, the fact that we've had technology advance at such a high rate, I think it's been to the detriment of our consciousness, to the point where, and it was already spiraling down, but I think that it's kind of exacerbated, where we are as far as just consciousness. It's like when like you're stuffing your face with that chicken sandwich, are you truly, thinking about the flavors and the combos of what you're eating? Like, are you conscious when actually consuming that, or like are you conscious when actually listening to the songs that you're listening to and really getting, the full harmony of what exactly is going on? I think that,
Are you living more of your life?
yeah,
Are you living deeply? And are you having a rich experience?
yeah,
Do you see that movie Soul, that new one that came out?
yeah, I did. That
Which
was
was a
a
great little.
it wasn't for kids though. I was like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, like, it was not for kids. It was not for kids, and it really hit home for, I'm sure, many, but me too. I mean, like, living life, like not thinking the point of your life is your goals, and which is, your ego and everything like that, but actually experiencing life. And then those experiences, um, being able to differentiate them and live as deeply as you can and live as meaningfully as you can, I think is such an important thing. And of course with food, because one of, like the first sense, I think the first sense that we have is smell. I think that's the first sense. And of course that ties into olfactory and like the retronasal and like, our taste. And
Yeah.
taste and smell are such primitive, like, like very like, I mean, like we don't have sonar, but like, like taste and smell are some the primitive senses. They're the ways that we would figure out what's bad and good for our body. Like even like the idea of bitterness, like our body detects bitterness so that we know when something's poison, really, or something like shouldn't be ingested in a great quantity.
Right.
So and then we just like have layers of that create dimensions of like the prism of flavors and the ability to navigate that and go through that and everything. And it's just something that, of course, it creates a way of living life more deeply, but also something that's just good for us to do, to question to ask the questions about what's being given to us. You know, sometimes we'll go to a restaurant and it's just like, I can't believe that somebody would actually serve me this. Like, it is such a pile of shit. And then, like, you know what I mean? Like, and then sometimes you know, and then you go to a restaurant and it's exquisite, and then there's everything in between. So I think that's what I really learned, you know,
Yeah.
at Lincoln, and everything. Just do what matters, like, and find out why, you know, and that's like meditation and prayer. And like, I do yoga every day, you know, and I think about like what matters and why, you know.
Right. And like the experience of eating, you know, also it can be, you know, not only experience for you, but also, you know, making like a food that like a dish that's, you know, culturally, you know, significant to you, and then sharing. I think that that's also a beautiful experience of, you know, people learning like others' traditions, and, you know, just swapping ideas
I mean,
and
we're all poets. We're all poets, really. I mean, in the sense of it, like, you know, there's that is, it's extremely satisfying to be able to present, um, you know, what you believe to be true, you know. And I think that that's really another thing too. Like, there's the beauty is in the truth of what it is, and that's why, like, the purity of it. Like, you know, when Jonathan Beno's using, like, you know, Berkshire pork, like those, you know, the way they feed those beautiful pigs, you know what I mean, and or uh, local produce from the New York City green market. Like, that's from someplace. Those are real farmers. Those are agricultural products. Like, there's people connected to that, and people with entire belief systems in there, and where they're growing and producing their food, and the way that they farm those lands. You know, it shows you a way of living life, and we're so far removed from that as a society. Like me and you talking on a video right now, you know, video chat. I mean, it's incredible, and I'm glad that we can,
oh
like, but there
yeah,
has to be
yeah.
a balance. There has to be a balance, you
Right.
know.
No, yeah. And I think, you know, tagging on to that point that you just made there, you know, when it comes to our food and the source of food, and like you were talking about earlier, there definitely is, like, as we've grown as a species and have become, you know, dominant over this world and like are all over the place, you know, the sourcing of our food has stretched more and more, you know, to the point where by the time it gets to your plate, it's like gone through all sorts of shit to get to that point. And,
Right,
you know, I think it's to the detriment of the quality, because, you know, before it was like, I live right here, my food is coming from like a mile away. It like the most. It's like now, like when you have something on your plate, who the fuck knows where it's been? That shit has
yeah,
had a
yeah.
fucking it's traveled more than your ass has.
Right. And that's why, like, you know, like great chefs and great somms and great bartenders and everything, like they're like that seal of approval. They saw, like, I have almost zero talent. Like, when I think about like what I do at the restaurant, like, but I source, like, I just have, like, I'm just like, that's good. Like, I acknowledge that, like, you know, we should carry that, because it's, you know, I know where it's from, and that's important. And you should be able to, I think, trace your food back to its roots. Like, that would be the most ideal way of eating, I think. Not just for nutritional value and taste and flavor, but just like, just for meaning of what's being put into your body. And like, it should mean something. I mean, everything should mean something, I think. I mean, we have to live our lives. We have to. I mean, I say these things like, somebody always used to tell me, like, when you say should, you should all over yourself. Like, you should do this, should do that. Nobody should do anything, but, you know, unless it serves them well. Um, but we should live our lives I'll say it anyway, I don't care. We should live our life. We should live our lives sacramentally, you know. And
Yeah.
that is what really helped me, because, like, I've been through the mill with everything, man, and I'm sure you have too, Julian, and I know you have. And the only thing that's got me by is living my life sacramentally, you know, like, and looking at each thing as a sacrament. I'm very lucky to be able to do this with you. I'm very lucky to be able to, you know, source the wines that I source and taste the wines that I taste. And I'm lucky to be able to, you know, present the Beatles in the face of NSYNC, or present, you know, like Charlie Parker in the face of Kenny G, or, you know, put the Berkshire pork instead of the, you know, the lowest grade meat possible, or, you know, I mean, like, these are things that matter to me. Um, and I think to a lot of people.
So
So,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
I agree. Life has been crazy. I feel incredibly fortunate to be where I am now.
Yeah.
It's been a
And it's so
journey.
fucking good to see you, bro. It's so good to
Yeah,
see you. I mean, I actually haven't, we've been talking on the phone a little bit in preparation for this, but you look great, man. You look great.
you look
I
great
mean, I
too,
can't
man.
believe it. You look exactly like you. Like, it's been a long time. It's been like, damn, like maybe like 7, 8 years. Like, damn,
Yeah,
that's
like seven
crazy.
years. Yeah, yeah, it's insane.
It is insane.
Whatchamacallit, I was actually reading this book called, well, I am reading this book called The Power of the Myth. Really great book, highly recommend it. And one of the things that you were just saying right now made me think about it, where you were talking about, like, the sourcing of things and really, respecting the food and everything. And one
Yeah.
thing that they talk about in the book, because basically, like, the book and the author, his name is Joseph Campbell. He's no longer living, but like, he is
What's
a
it called?
genius.
The myth of thing?
I think it's called the power of
The,
myth.
the
Basically,
power of myth.
it's basically that they're talking about how, throughout history, basically everything is the same story being told over and over again, but just in different styles, and how, it's kind of like we basically, as a human species, rely on archetypes to kind of instill a structure of how to be for the next generation. It's just like, a way of passing information down, but via stories.
It's kind of like the
And
overlapping of dreams. I think they said that in that book Sapiens that you told me about. That
right,
I read the first part of it, and it
yeah,
was like
yeah, yeah,
we dream and we create these like dreams, and then like the dreams extend. That's how we connect to each other. Like this is like you and
yeah,
I like conceptualizing collectively, and
right,
that's you know
yeah. And like, the thing that they talk about that I found fascinating was how, um basically, there's a distinction between, like when we were hunter gatherers, and then when we went to, like, be more, on, like, the side of cropping, growing, farming, and things like that. And they were
becoming an
saying,
agricultural
yeah,
society as
yeah,
opposed to nomads. Like we would yeah we
right,
started to actually settle and plant things.
yeah. And like, they were talking about how, a lot of the times, in, like, the hunter gatherer myths, the myth was more around stories, cultivating, harmony with the animals that we were killing to consume, and how, like, the animal had such a high level of importance and was
Yeah,
respected.
they
And
would
like,
pray and dance around and like
yeah,
have ceremonies.
yeah, and how, it's that no longer really exists, but like, it was just really interesting, because like, I think it
I
just,
think it does. I think it does. I think it does. Like I think Rene Redzepi does that, but I don't think he dances and prays. But I think he does it in a way. You know what I mean? Like I think that the best chefs, like I think JB does that in a way, and that's where those restaurants, those great restaurants, come in. Like where they definitely respect the food. Like we don't. I mean, like we as like a general population don't, but like
right,
that's where the magic is, man. And I
yeah,
agree with you. I totally agree with you. I think yeah, like that's when we finally get the ceremony that we want. That's finally when it's like, oh, they get it. Like they get it. Like this is important. Like this is an important thing. You know.
right.
Um,
And
sounds like a good book. That sounds pretty good.
oh yeah, it's fascinating.
It's
And
funny you say that. When I was, sorry to cut you off, but just before
oh
I
yeah,
forget, there's when I was a kid, I would go to the Algonquin Museum in Staten Island, and it was like, oh no, it was like the Staten Island Children's Museum, and they had like this Algonquin exhibit, and they always had people dancing around like this giant. It really was significant for me because you bring this up. Like they had this people dancing around this mammoth, like with spears, like killing it, but like worshiping it at the same time. You know,
yeah,
that
yeah,
was I mean that's a powerful memory for me, and like you just like evoke that. Definitely like definitely interesting, and definitely how I see my life. Like we're all dying here, like, but we got to dance in the death, like you know what I mean. Like we all gotta you know have that sacrament. We need that, and we skip it, and we skip it, and
yeah,
that's where the sad part comes in because we're not we're literally just giving up on it. We're like I'm just gonna eat it,
right. Well,
whatever it is.
I think it all goes back to, I feel like, as we've, quote unquote, evolved, like, if you want to say that, we've we've kind of distracted ourselves more and more from life, and from the fact that, like you were saying, death is, it's an inevitable thing, and it's something that, whether we like it or not, is subconsciously, in there and is something that we're thinking about. But I think that as a collective group, we're basically just doing things to distract ourselves from actually living and like actually being one with everything, you know.
Death on earth, man. I mean, it's a really scary thing. And I did it for a long time. Like I was a really bad alcoholic for a long time. And I was just I guess I was afraid to dance. Like, you know what I mean? Like I just wanted to just get to the point. Um, and there were a lot of things that helped me get out of that. My wife, the most of all. I mean, like, she really taught me how to, of course, things teach you along the way, and then you reconnect with them. Things like Lincoln, things like going to, New York University and just like meeting the most incredible jazz musicians in the world and things like that. And like, it doesn't seem relevant until like, you know, now
Yeah.
here it
No,
is.
yeah.
Like now here it is. And I'm lucky. I mean, like I'm 33 years old and I still want to be here. Like I still want to be here, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people really, it's very sad, and we're living in the hardest time that we've ever, that, I mean, like, no, honestly, like, you know what, we're living in a pretty easy time anyway, even with this virus and everything like that, because like we are so um lucky. Like we're so lucky. We're the wealthiest, like Americans are like the wealthiest population that history has ever seen. Like it's crazy. Like we can talk, do anything that we want, and it's just, it's hard. It's not anybody's fault. It's not anybody's fault that it became this way. It was just that things, people wanted things to be easier. They became easier. They became way easier on a massive scale, and then like that's what happens. Like you kind of implode on yourself or something like that. It's. But how could I refuse this technology? How could I refuse my ability to connect with you? You know what I mean? And
Right.
you know it's tough. It's a real paradox. It's a real paradox that we live in right now.
No, yeah,
But
it is. And
yeah,
life inevitably, like, and I think uh it's a tough pill to swallow, but life is always going to have its ebbs and flows, and suffering is something that no matter, I think that that's the one thing, no matter who you are, no matter your race, your gender, your economic, situation, suffering is something that every single individual on some scale will experience. That's just life. And
yeah,
it's one of those things where like it sucks, but at the same time it's what gives life its beauty, because without
yeah.
suffering there's no point.
You would go crazy. I mean, heaven on earth is not, like you would literally go crazy. You'd be so miserable without suffering.
Yeah, well,
Sort of
yeah.
funny, right? You'd be suffering without suffering, right? Like
Yeah.
there would be no way. Like the literal you would, yeah. Maybe we should
Yeah.
stop smoking. No.
And it's funny, like I was thinking about this the other day, because like, I think we spoke about this at one point. I read this book where like the guy was talking about how, suffering is part of life, and he was like, without like, the reason why we're here and the reason why there are limitations is because God has no limits. God is perfect, all these other things, and that's boring. If like we like, the whole point of going through these things is, and this is just my perspective, everyone, you can believe whatever you want, but I think that we're all one, we're all like part of this, and you can call it God, you can call it whatever you want, but like there's just this one level of omnipotent consciousness, and we're
Yeah.
all connected to that,
Yeah,
and
man.
we're manifestations of that, and the struggles in which you go through and that you have, it's like it's there for a reason, and it's there because that's the whole point,
And I'm gonna even expand on that and say, and you owe that. Whatever that is, you owe it. Like
Yep.
you owe it because you get to be here. So like syncing up with doing the right thing. And like, what's that quote? Like, what is good and what is not good, Phaedrus? Need we anyone to tell us these things? Like, what, like we don't, you know, we know what the right thing is, we
Yeah.
know that as people. Um, and I think that, we owe that. We owe that. And it takes a while, and it takes a lot of life experience to realize that like nobody feels bad for you because you got to do this thing, and you should take advantage of it at any point that you can.
Yeah.
Um, and and experience the most beautiful parts of it. And it's your responsibility to do that. I'm sorry if you were born with a handicap or something like that. I'm sorry, like, I'm sorry if your parents, weren't rich. I'm sorry if, your you're a minority or whatever. Like I feel for you, I do, but you still got to go for it. You still got to go for it.
Yeah,
You still
yeah,
got to go for it.
yeah. No,
I
yeah,
think.
I agree. And you know, I do want to like talk about your favorite dishes and just
Oh yeah.
your
Oh my God. I'm sorry we got
your
so into that. Yeah.
oh no, yeah, and like your favorite combos. Like one thing that pops into my head that I was I still to this day think of, like there are a couple of dishes, like I feel like everyone has like a couple of dishes that they've eaten where they're just like, my God, like I would slap the shit out of an old lady to eat this again.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's how
Yeah.
good it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
remember, for
Yeah.
instance, at Lincoln, there was this pasta dish where it was like I don't think it was an agnolotti, maybe it was a whatchamacallit, like a ravioli, like some sort of like pocket pasta with
Right. Right.
something in it. And it was like
Every
this
culture
like,
has a dumpling.
yeah, that's true. And there was like a corn type thing inside of it with like cream, and then like it had shaved
Yeah.
black truffles and butter. Oh my
Crazy,
God.
man. Yeah.
That
That's a
shit
super
just
traditional, it's a super traditional Italian dish, like the northern Italian dish, I believe, because of the black truffle and everything. But yeah, corn ravioli. I mean, we used to get that fresh Jersey corn. I
oh
know
my
that. And
God.
yeah, he used to make, and then sometimes he did it with, like he made an amazing polenta as well, which was
Oh
also really,
yes.
yeah,
Yes.
with like scamorza cheese on the top, which is smoked
Oh my
mozzarella.
God, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like JB loved to work with corn, and I think that like corn is such an amazing and unique. I mean, like it's kind of crazy you just bring up corn if we're going to talk about my favorite dishes, because it's just such a gorgeous flavor. I mean, it's like it's really powerful, but also very subtle in a sense. Like it brings you to childhood in so many ways. Like corn just takes you back. You know. And there's just so many ways to have corn, obviously. Like it's just like really unbelievable. But like what an amazing ingredient in like an Italian ravioli. Like what a and a truly understated one. I've made a drink with it before.
Ooh.
I've made it. I think I've made it. I forget. It was a while back, but we pureed corn and made like not a corn syrup, but like a fresh corn syrup in the sense of it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it was very bright yellow. Uh, and I forgot what else we put, like some lime and kind of thing like that, like kind of reminiscent of. I think I garnished it with like a mushroom or something like that because it was just really reminiscent of like that like Latin kind of
Right.
feel for me at that time. But corn was amazing. Yeah, I mean that was yeah. Pasta is pasta is an unbelievable thing. Like I've been so into it. We have an arcobaleno pasta machine at the restaurant now. We make our own pasta in house. So like definitely like the first time eating JB's food, Jonathan Beno's food, like you definitely want to do that. You definitely want to create those amazing pasta dishes because there's nothing like an amazing plate of pasta.
Dude, and speaking of the polenta, I remember, because I was really cool with the line cooks and everything. I was like, because like, I wanted to make it myself.
Yeah, yeah, and
I'm
you
like,
could cook
what? Yeah,
apparently.
I was like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? And like he told me, and I wrote it. And like as we're speaking, I'm kind of remembering. I remember that first and foremost, like the cornmeal was Indian head, like that's the one that they were using. And then
Okay.
he was saying, you need to get really really sweet corn, like Jersey corn, and basically you pulse it, like you basically use like a box crate and like shave all of it off
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
like
yeah.
mix it and like you put some butter. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a lot of labor. I mean, like people don't do that because it's just like a lot of labor, and I think that that's where like, like the fine thing comes in too. Like people work on this shit. People are
Yeah.
like working on this shit like all the time. Like, you got a guy down there too, like sifting out the leaves, to make for the best parsley, like, just like to make sure that no duds get in, like whatever. Like that's some like, like that's some crazy transcendent stuff, man. Yeah, I when I think of corn too, I always think about like, I pushed my guys to make homemade tortillas once, and I was like, let's try it. And then I was reading about it, and it's like it has to sit in the water, and then if they take like a scoop of like limestone and they put it in there, it's called like the cow, and it just like creates that real like rocky, stony, minerally flavor and like a really good homemade tortilla. Like that is of the earth, man. Like that is some really beautiful stuff. Like
Oh,
that stuff is
100%. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and that's all. I mean, like, man, if I could just do it all over, I would just. I mean, like, we make almost everything homemade, but like, I just love everything homemade, like down to like just like I would love to just get a place and call it scratch, like just everything, everything, everything. And I think that that's really all people want in the world, because if you profess that to like a person, like everything is just from scratch, I mean, sold. If it's true, then sold. Like I love that. You know what I mean? Like there's just nothing better in the world than kind of like, you know, everything just from that purest form, from like just the root of who you are. Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? You
Yeah.
don't cook or sound like anybody else. Like you just, you know, right from the source.
Yeah.
But
And
that's yeah.
while we were talking about this, I don't know why like this popped into my head. I remember there was one time where we had this special at Lincoln where like it was it was like a dry aged steak, like a humongous dry aged steak. And like I think maybe we had like three or four, and it was super expensive. It was like $130 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember there was this bougie couple that came in. They got like a whole bunch of things on the table. They got the dry aged steak. Like we saw that they both like basically it was cut up and everything. They both took like
Did we
two
eat
slices.
it?
We ate
We
that
ate
shit.
it. We ate it. We ate it. We did. And you know, you used to get yelled at for eating the food off of someone's plate. And I was like, fuck that. I was like, look at this steak. Oh yeah, hell yeah. And then I realized like nobody else did this. Like this was a huge no-no. You know what I mean?
It
Like,
was a huge no-no, but at the same time, like it was untouched. And like you're talking about $100+ steak. I'm just like, and I remember people were like, do you want it to take it home or whatever? And like, the clientele was rich people. They're just like, nah, I got my bite. I'm good. And we're just like, what the?
yeah, 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 yeah. Yo, you wanna know? That happened to me another time. This was one of my first shifts at Lincoln. Okay. This was incredible, actually. So there's my dog, my wife is home. So I'm I'm at Lincoln. It's like my first or second day. I'm trailing, right? And like there's this like couple at the Bolshoi Ballet or something like that had left like a case of Chateau de Chem Sauterne. Chateau de Chem Sauterne is like one of the greatest wines produced in the world. Like they don't even make it in some years. They just want to make sure that like every single grape is perfect. Like one vine produces like a glass of wine or something like that. Like it's crazy. Like it is so rare, and it's like thousands of dollars, whatever. So they like the Bolshoi Theater, like or whatever it was. I don't even know. They left this case of this wine, and like they didn't come back and get it because they were like, whatever, like we're rich anyway, I guess. Like I have no idea, like, or as a gift to Lincoln or something like that, right? So like I just remember them talking about this wine. They're like, by the way, like we only have Italian wines here, but if anybody's like super rich, like if anybody's like super rich and they want a glass of like $60 dessert wine, like we have Chateau de Chem in the house. And I was like, I don't even know what Chateau de Chem is, right? Same shit. Same thing, like some rich motherfucker, sorry, some rich motherfucker comes in and he was just like, takes a sip, like paying his bill, like doesn't care. He orders like 2 glasses of it for like him and his date. And like they left it there. And I went in the back and I drank that shit, man. And like I didn't know anything about wine, but I heard this description and it was like it wine can take you someplace else, man. Like it was the craziest, like most delicious like thing. Like I was like hooked on just like how could something like in a glass be that good? Like it was just out of control.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
And it
the
just
steak
shows
too.
you, yeah, the steak too. Yeah, it was incredible. So much
Yeah,
flavor. And I think it was to specify, I think it was like a 60-day dry aged steak.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of insane that like someone could have so much money that they're just like, oh yeah, give me that like $80 glass of wine, and then they take a sip and they're like, okay, I'm good, and they walk away.
Yeah, yeah. You know, man, I mean, like good stuff is really expensive. Good stuff, it really is. It has a lot of value, and like that's how we value things like currency and money and all that kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
and then some people, you know, they just want that taste. They just want to see what I guess it is, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
even me, like now, I like when I have like I have like this much of wine, like because like I don't want to, you know, I don't want to drink too much or anything like that. I just but sometimes it's really worth it too, you know. Like sometimes, like not, I mean, not to spend the money necessarily, but like to get that even that taste. Like for me, wine, like I can't travel, like I don't have the money, but like wine will take me to, you know, someplace else, you know. And then if that steak is good, that steak will make you think about where it came from. Like how could it be this good?
Right.
And
Yeah.
sometimes like, and all these little subtleties is really just like the person that's behind it wanting to scream at the top of their lungs, like please, like go for quality. Please think about quality. Like, and it's so subtle. Like people just graze it right over. They'll be like, yeah, that's it. I think having an appreciation for it is more important than delivering it. Like
Absolutely.
that's what I'm looking for in people. Like always, like please appreciate this. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
please, like I beg you, man. Like this is like the greatest thing I could think of, Yeah.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
it's it's a form of art. It's a form of storytelling, You're especially if someone's putting their own spin on it. Like it was interesting. I was watching inadvertently. And I swear this always fucking happens. Like right before I'm gonna do a podcast with somebody,
Yeah.
I'll watch something, I'll hear something, and it's like super applicable to the conversation and it ends up being mentioned. So like I was
Yeah.
watching this Food Network or like Discovery Plus show where it's called like Beat Bobby Flay or whatever, and basically
Oh,
like
okay.
someone comes on and like they make things that they're good at, and like Bobby
Right,
Flay
right,
has
right.
to. So like there was the
I've
episode
seen
I
it. Yeah.
saw where like there was this Indian guy who ended up challenging him to make this like traditional um Indian dish where it's like this type of cheese that like is kind of like tofu where it basically like takes up the flavor of whatever you put on it with like a spinach
Like
puree.
a neutral kind of cheese, like.
Yeah, neutral kind of
Yeah, yeah.
cheese. And it was like the thing that I found really fascinating was, and the guy ended up beating him, but like Bobby Flay,
Huh.
like when he told him the dish, he's like, okay, and like he basically did it like at a very traditional way, like the very traditional way in which you do it. But then the Indian guy like basically had his own style of it, where he basically deconstructed it and basically made it like kind of like Indian lasagna type style and added a
Okay.
little American cheese, I mean cheddar cheese to it. And it was fascinating because then like when the judges were eating it and like none of them were like Indian, but they understood the dish and like
Right, right.
they're saying how basically not only was the flavor on point, but that like it told an interesting story though. Like, the person who made this, like it's almost as if it's both a smack in the face to Indian culture as well as like a combination it like embracing American
It's a
culture
it's
with
a it's an
the American
edible
cheese.
autobiography. It's like a
Yeah,
little autobiography, like
yeah,
in a plate,
yeah. It's
and that's
incredible.
it. I mean, it's the stories, It's the stories. Like that's really what it's about. Like can you tell your story? Like what do you got? Like you got your pen, you got your horn, you got you got your like what do I got? I mean, I walk around with bottles of wine, but but like but really my wine list is my story. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just it's who I am. Like everything that's on there is just like what I appreciate and like real like it's you could tell where I came from. You could tell like matter of fact, next week I think that we're going to start carrying Raekwon's wine um uh from the Wu-Tang Clan, which is like hilarious because like that's going to be on my list. Lakata wines. I mean, this is not an advertisement for them, but like I'm going to put it on there. I don't know how it's going to be necessarily, but I love that it's like a Staten Island rapper picked this wine, and I just think it's like I just want to tell my story through my list, and I mean, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do those kinds of things every day. Everybody, I mean, everybody does those kinds of things every day.
Yeah. Oh
You
yeah,
remember that plate of
absolutely.
you remember that plate of mushrooms at Lincoln?
Yes.
Do you remember those mushrooms? They were like $22.
Yes. The fungi. Yep.
They were crazy, man. They were so good. I mean, there was like hen of the woods, oyster. What was it? What mushrooms were there?
There was Hen of the Woods, there was trumpet, there was shiitake, maisaki. Man, I feel like you're fucking like
I'm
quizzing
testing
me
you,
over
bro.
here.
I'm testing you, bro. I'm testing you, bro.
Those are the ones I
And those were
remember.
scary. And those were scary tests too, because like my staff doesn't even know when I change the special sometimes. And then it's like they used to find you had to know like you know every grain of any seasoning in every single thing. And if you didn't know
Yeah.
it, like you just went home. Like you're
Yeah.
just fired.
Yeah, it was intense. Like they'd line you up, they'd ask you what's like, what's this dish, what's that, what's in that. And if you didn't know, like not only like could you potentially go home, but you'd feel like a fucking failure. And I remember we would be, it's like during your break, you'd be studying. We would be
Yeah,
studying. I remember
yeah,
we'd be studying
yeah.
the fucking menu and like asking each other, like, I don't know any other industry. I don't know any other craft where like entry level people have that level of dedication. Where like
Yeah.
you are just trying to be. the best at what you're doing, bring the best and like more and then some, you know? And it's like I remember.
I think it's because it's like a finally moment for people. I think they're like, finally, that this is something I can understand. Anybody can understand food. Like we all eat. So like when you do food really well, it's very obvious for people, I think, in some ways, like especially the people that are just at a job and like we're gonna do this real. So it's like, yeah, I think that they're happy to be dedicated to something they can understand. They're happy to be able, like, if you gave somebody a xylophone and they didn't do music ever, like they're like, I'm sort of frustrated. But like when you give somebody like a plate of mushrooms and they're like, this is delicious, like I can get into this like immediately. I think it's just like always a huge like just entry level, like just way to get into it really quickly.
Yeah, and I'll never
Yeah.
forget when like I finally was able to, you know, crush, you know, serving properly, feeling at a table by myself, feeling
Yeah.
confident, and you know, it's like it's a good feeling, and you know, it's it's a beautiful, you know, dance. And I remember this is like you weren't around at this time, but I remember there was this one night, I'll never forget this, where I was manning the station by myself. It was a little slow. I only had like maybe two or three tables. There was this one table of this like lovely Italian couple from Long Island. They had like a three-course meal. I was taking care of them, like, you know, getting them their drinks and everything. And the guy was like, you know, thank you so much. Like, this experience has been like amazing. He's like, you know, me and my
Yeah.
wife don't come to the city very often. And he palmed me $20. And
Nice.
I was like, wow, thanks. And then like, you know, I kept, you know, just doing what I was doing that night. And then like towards the end, he pounded me again and like thanked me for the experience. And I think that's the thing about fine dining and, you know, just, you know, food in general, like it's an experience. And I think that, you know, when you're just sitting down, conversing, eating good food, the ambiance, like all of that is like I think we take for granted how impactful that can be for someone.
It's really an art form. It's like a multifaceted, like, you know, multi-person art form. Like your messengers of beauty, I mean, like in so many ways. And that's what I try to be. Like that's what I really try to be. Um, just keeps you close to God, man. Like, it does. And I think people believe that. I think it's really easy for people to just grab onto that.
Yeah, and
Um,
I want you to elaborate more on that, on how it keeps like it keeps you closer to God.
well, I just think if everything, Justin Marquez, the manager at
Yeah,
Lincoln,
yeah,
great guy. Yeah,
awesome
great
dude.
guy. I mean, he just said to me, like, everything has a place. And I think that like everything does. And I think that like, doing your best is doing your best, doing what you know to be your best is I think what this universe wants from you. And
Yeah,
what you should want for yourself. What you should want for yourself.
absolutely.
Um,
And,
yeah.
and I think also, you know, the connections that you're making, like connections is whatever that's what it's all about, is connection. So I think in that way too, would you say that's like bringing you closer to God as well?
I mean, everything is just a metaphor for everything, right? Like just like the whole, like it's the overlapping of those like, of those ideologies. Like, it's all like translatable, everything, you know.
Yeah.
Are you slowing down or am I slowing down on the thing? Oh
I think
no,
we're
you're good. My connection's good.
yeah, you're good. You're good.
Oh, okay, good. Sorry about that. I don't know. It like slowed up for a second.
So what would you say, like is there a dish that brings you back to like your childhood that just like was like the
Man,
best thing?
I yeah, like McDonald's chicken nuggets. I swear to God, but here's the thing. But I love them, man. And when they changed to like the all white meat, like I was so mad. Like I loved it when it was just like processed. Like I love that, man. And like we didn't have a lot of money growing up, and I was like a baby in Brooklyn, and my mom would take me to get McDonald's chicken nuggets, and it was like the greatest day ever, man. Like the Happy Meal and everything like that. And like those nuggets are so distinct. But here's the catch: it has to be with pure honey. You know what I mean? You have to dip them with the pure honey, and I just love that dish so much, and it reminds me so much of my childhood. Like I don't think there's anything I'd rather eat in this world than like McDonald's chicken nuggets with pure honey. and like it is just like out of control delicious. And I love pairing it with like wine too. And like actually somebody did just pair it. There was like this book that's out now, Big Macs and Burgundy, and it's about pairing junk foods with like all kinds of like international wines and everything. And like it's just so good with like sweet wine and Riesling and everything like that. Like Riesling has that like that beautiful apple crispiness and all that kind of thing that goes with that like that chicken nugget and that. Yeah, I mean I love that dish, man. I mean it's not refined, but like I hope I can reproduce many things that evoke that kind of experience for people like that. That very. What about you? What about you?
Oh man. Well, I think as you're saying that, like, yeah, I definitely remember the Happy Meals, but I think the thing that sticks out to me, I grew up in Flushing, Queens, and there was a pizzeria called Valentino's, which is still there. My girlfriend and I,
Nice.
we actually went there and got a slice, still really good. I remember, back in the day, getting a Sicilian slice or just a plain slice and a cherry icy. That
Oh
cherry icy, oh my fucking god! On a hot
yeah,
summer
man.
day,
Yeah. Wait, like
oh,
with the polar bear on it, like was it called an icy or was it a slushy? Like I used to get the cherry slushy from
like
Kmart.
not a
Kmart.
slushy, an icy. So like it came in like they'd scoop it out, like you scoop it, and it was like pinkish red and like a white cup, and I
Oh,
would
like an
just
Italian ice, like an
yeah
Italian ice.
yeah.
Oh, see, we just call them Italian ices in
Oh
Staten
okay,
Island.
okay, an
Like, an
Italian ice.
icy is different. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah
Because like,
yeah yeah.
yeah, but cherry, man, like cherry's a crazy flavor. Like
Love that
I
one.
think about it all the time. I love it too, but then like I can't do Robitussin. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's crazy because Robitussin tastes so much like cherry, but like there's so many great wines that I love that taste like Robitussin. You know,
Mm,
like that's another flavor. Like that's another thing that like your body knows. Like the first time you cook, you took cough medicine, but like
yeah
to remind somebody of that, but in a good way. Like now
yeah
that's an idea. Like that's a great idea. Like
yeah.
bringing somebody to that.
So yeah, flavors definitely evoke like there's a memory behind it. And speaking of, I know we were talking about the mushrooms from Lincoln. The I think the thing from Lincoln was just like the like chef's kiss, the fucking mozzarella. I mean the fucking um eggplant parm.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh
I
my
mean, like that
god.
was just, but that's his autobiography then. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like
my
it's so
god.
obvious. Yeah,
It's
it's so
insane.
obvious. Like
Do you
that was
remember
his
that
signature.
there was this old lady, like she had to be like in her 90s, who would come every Saturday for lunch and get the eggplant.
I don't
Every,
remember.
every Saturday she'd come and just get the eggplant. That's all she'd get. And
I don't remember that.
man, dude, that eggplant, it's out of this world. Like, and I love eggplant parm. That's probably like one of my go-tos. And I think
Where were the
I
egg? Where were the eggplants from?
uh I'm
Um,
not sure.
you're you're on the line, man. No, I don't remember either. I don't remember. Like they must have been some special eggplants too, though.
Dude, ridiculous. And like I
Yeah.
remember how the like and like you were saying before with like the level of attention to detail and like the long process of doing it. It's like they would thinly slice like the eggplant, and it would be like a spiral that they'd make, and then they put the sauce and the cheese, and it was like a and it was a big eggplant parm too. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it was like I
It was
think
like a 20. It was like 25 bucks at the time, right?
yeah, it was like 25 bucks, and it
Something
was
like that.
I think that's a deal like
Well
for
worth it.
what you
Yeah,
got. Yeah, well
absolutely.
worth it.
When you think about like what's actually happening, like that's an incredible. Like you just know it, you feel it.
Right.
I mean, Italian food is very. Richard Capizzi was amazing too. Like
Oh yes.
what I thought you were gonna say something about dessert for a second. Like I thought you were talking about. Remember those little what were the after dinner things called?
Oh
They would give you to take home.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I forgot the name of it, but yeah, it's like it was like a nugget type
Yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah. There was a nougat. There was caramels.
Yeah, I
They
know
were
exactly.
tight, man. Like they were really good, and I used to steal them all the time. Like you weren't supposed to eat them. What were they called? Oh, what were they called? Oh, not pastaccini. Pastaccini was
Pastaccini,
that it?
yes. Pastaccini, yes. You'd put
Like
that on the
tiny little,
table with a
tiny little.
check.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh man, they were delicious. They were
Yeah,
delicious.
those were good.
He was
Yeah.
great, Capizzi, man. I mean, I think they still work together too. Or maybe no, maybe Capizzi still at Lincoln when JB left.
Mm. No, yeah, I think Capizzi stayed. Capizzi is great. Holy
Yeah,
cow.
he
They
was the sweetest
man,
guy too, man.
such good desserts. Holy cow. like
Yeah.
out of this world. Oh my god. I think he had like there were a few desserts that they had that were just like chef's kiss again, like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
sorbetti, the grape one, the Concord grape sorbet.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I don't know if I ever had it, but I'm sure it's insane.
Out of this fucking world. Like out
Yeah,
of this
man.
fucking
I love
world.
the way they used to scoop it too. All the good sorbets are scooped that way, right? That spoon
Yep.
scoop.
Oh
Yeah.
man. Love it.
Yeah. 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 He was awesome too. He was just like, he's sort of one of those like great Italian guys that made it, like, sort of like a hero to me. Like even watching him just be that elegant, like, you know what I mean? Instead of being like brutish and like, like about the mafia or some bullshit, like he was being like an exceptional pastry chef. You know what I mean? Like, and that meant a
Yeah.
lot. And even JB too, like, JB was like, those guys are heroes for like a guy like me,
Yeah.
when I was younger, like watching them just be excellent at what they do.
Yeah.
Because Italians can't play jazz really, but like, but they could cook, but they could cook, you know. I mean, we can't like a little bit, like like a few, like maybe, not really though. But
What
cooking, yes.
what would you say is the best dish at your restaurant?
Oh man, I mean, like for me, I think that I think we do a lot of really exceptional things. But I think that Louis tacos are some of the best. I mean, like they're crazy good. But then he makes Italian food just as well, which is crazy because he really nails multicultural cuisine. Like I don't know how he does it, but like, you know, I try to be modest about the restaurant, but it's fucking amazing. Like what we do in Staten Island and the kind of food that we do, the wine list that we have, the cocktail list that we have, like it is unbelievable. It is world class. Like I always just like beg the Michelin guide to come in because like my whole dream in the whole world would be like just get a star. Like and I've always like ran around like a maniac, like trying to just you know recreate Lincoln, um and but he does. We make every single pasta in the house. We make every single pasta from scratch. I mean, the longs, the shorts, everything. I mean, every ingredient that I source from like, Baldor Produce Company. I mean, like from the spring onions to the purple broccolini to the magic molly potatoes to our we have puntarella from Italy. We have radicchio from California. Like everything that I do, like I sit there and like, no, you don't even talk to people about this stuff. Like, it's frustrating. Like, you sit and you're like, I do this beautiful thing, this beautiful thing, this beautiful thing. And it's like, it's not about ego. Like you hope, like, there's no such thing as a selfless act. There's no
Right.
such thing as a selfless act. But
Yeah.
everything I do there, I take pride in. Like every single dish. Like, I'm painstakingly like going through everything all the time. But I think the tacos are amazing. I'm sorry, like I just go off on that. But like I
Oh
think the
yeah.
tacos are amazing. I think the short rib is really amazing. I mean, it's like Creekstone Farm prime, boneless short rib, like right on the top of like a big pillowy bed of gnocchi covered in cream sauce with
Ooh.
like truffle cream. Like it's just gross. It's so good. Like it's just nasty good. It's like nasty good, man. Um, I mean, like we have, our warm salad, like right now with like, you know, it's like almonds and fresh mushrooms and the Italian puntarella, like so good, so good.
Hmm.
But
I
we just try to
I
stay in season. Oh,
I have a friend who listens all the time, and he requested he's a vegetarian. Is there like one that a dish like a pasta dish that you have that's like very vegetable centered that you think is just out of this world?
well, our eggplant lasagna. I mean, like it is,
Ooh,
it is
I saw the
literally,
pic on
it,
Instagram.
it is literally, it's just layers and layers of fresh eggplant. It's completely gluten free. Um, it's not vegan, but it's vegetarian, gluten free. I mean, it's crazy good. It's not really a pasta though, so that's not fair necessarily because it's truly like it's a lasagna, but lasagna means layers, so it's layers of eggplant, but it's not made with like with pasta. But like I love our chestnut ravioli is out of control as well. Like
Ooh, that
it's
sounds
it's
good.
it's really well made. Like it's really well made ravioli. If that counts as like vegetable, it's not a vegetable either. I'm trying to think of vegetables, man. I'm giving you stuff without meat, but I'm not giving you vegetables. So, I mean, we for me, there's a lot of vegans right now. There's a lot of vegetarians, and I think that's cool, man. I think like redirecting our focus to produce is an unbelievable thing. Like, you know, meat is overrated and everything like that. Like, I grew up eating a lot of meat. I still do. I feel bad about it, sort of, but like I still do.
Sort of.
Yeah, like I try not to examine that too deeply because I know where I'll end up, and I don't think I want to go there. But like, you know, like, and I think I do know where I'd end up, honestly. Like, I think I totally, but oof, I don't even want to think about that because I really love to eat so much.
Yeah, it's
But
great.
yeah. But like we've been focusing on a lot of vegan, vegetarian items, and I think that's really important. Like we have a lot of things that we make with plants, a lot of things with
Nice,
plants, and I think that's cool too. So
nice. With the pandemic, and you know, just taking into account how hard, you know, smaller, you know, restaurants in particular have been hit, you know, with just things being locked down and everything. Like, what do you think the future is for restaurants? And do you think that like there'll be a recovery and that we'll still have great restaurants to go to once this is over?
absolutely, absolutely we will. Like, you know, I don't know, man, because like the past 2 years of my life, like past year and a half of my life has been horrible. Like it's been horrible. You know, the tragedy that we've endured is like, you know, my wife and I, it's like unimaginable. But like, you know, people have it worse. Like people have it a lot worse. But I think that like people that wanted to persevere persevered. And I think that if you sort of made it if you you had your vision ahead of you, like if you conceptualize what you wanted to be and what was important rather than like, I don't know what's important to people when they open a restaurant. You know, I don't really know what it is, but for me, you know, it has something to do with that, you know?
Right. Well, yeah,
It
I
has something to
think
do with that. Yeah.
in general, when it comes to a restaurant, it like the overall, like your holistic goal can't just be profit, because first and foremost, that's like as you and I both
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. It's just a bad goal. It's just a
yeah,
bad goal.
yeah,
You know, I mean, restaurants are not profitable. I mean, I haven't made money in 6 years. I haven't made it down. I got robbed. I got cheated. Uh, but I think that that's the thing. Like there'll always be food to interpret. There'll always be agriculture to interpret. There'll always be a reason to cook for someone, and it'll always be a business. I mean, it'll always be a business.
yeah,
It and a fun one, and it's fun as hell. I mean, I wouldn't trade it in. I'm getting like emotional. I wouldn't trade it in for the world. What I do, I love doing it for people. I love hosting. My mom taught me that. You know, she taught me how to host, and I love doing it. It's all I want to do.
yeah.
You know.
And there's something beautiful to it. Like I'm like, you know, while things were locked down and everything, I think that, you know, there was all this nostalgia and this, you know, sense of, you know, romance behind just the notion of being able to just sit outside and eat, you know, with somebody. And you know, I feel like, you know,
Yeah, I
for me
mean, it's the table, man. I mean, it's like it's the table. I mean, like we all do it. Every culture does it. I mean,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
I mean, it also, you know, no matter, you know, every tribe, no matter how primitive, also, you know, makes music.
yeah. Food, music, storytelling, you know, these are
Yeah,
qualities that we all have. And yeah, there's just something beautiful about being able to sit at a table, you know, talk, tell stories, enjoy food, you know, and
you know, I love doing this with you, brother. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and you know, I'm sorry. I'm actually sorry I don't have a bowl of spaghetti like over here, like right now. That like you know, because I got to tell you, man, like I haven't hung out with anybody in a long time, and I haven't like, you know, you forget this how cool this is, and how it's great to have a friend, and it's great to, you know, it's great that it's you, Julian, because the world needs you, bro. Like I said, like the world needs you, world needs you, and yeah, I mean, like being at the table with people, you know, because I'm sitting at my table with people, you know what I mean? But
no, yeah,
I really, I really appreciate this, man. I really appreciate you doing this with me and for me. I mean, you know, it means a lot.
no, yeah. I'm glad that we're able to do this, and I definitely want to, now that I'm vaxxed up and everything, want to
Yeah,
check out your restaurant. Got a car and everything to go. It's not too far from me either. Like when driving, at least. Um,
Let me know, man. Let me
Yeah.
know. But
But
then,
bef-
I'm gonna hook you up, bro.
but before we go, you want to just call out your name of your restaurant again, your like website, your Instagram.
Absolutely. My name is Danny Ippolito. I own Bin Five Restaurant, Staten Island, New York. It's in Rosebank, 1233 Bay Street, Staten Island, New York, 10305. You can check us out on Instagram at Bin Five NYC. It's at Bin Five NYC, and then we're on Facebook with the same thing. Website is www.bin5nyc.com.
And I'll of course add that to the description as well. Danny, thanks so much, man. This has been amazing.
Love you, brother. Love you,
Love you
brother.
too, man.
Thank you, man.